come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to a mini-sode, because I can't imagine that this will go for an hour. I hope not, at least. I did that the other night. Anyway, welcome to a mini-sode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part2. Joining me today is Rasco, a.k.a. the Squatch Gang.
Howdy, y'all.
Indeed. Howdy, indeed. Anyway, today we're talking about a fan film. We're reviewing a fan film, because why the hell not? It was really good. That's our review. Thanks for watching. Anyway, so this is a Star Wars fan film that was posted fairly recently, like, what, 2-3 months ago, maybe? I don't know.
I think so.
You know what I could do, since it's on the internet?
You can look it up.
Yeah! Darth Maul Apprentice. 1 month ago. Wow. Okay, so not even 2-3 months ago.
Okay.
And it's just a neat idea for a Darth Maul fan film to be made. He's one of those characters that, like, everybody loves, but he has absolutely, like, he just gets completely ignored, completely wasted in the one movie he's in. Yeah. And so it seemed like a neat project for a fan creator to do, and they did it. And now we're going to review it, right?
Can I just say something about Darth Maul really quick?
Go for it.
Okay, when they were setting out to make the prequel trilogy, one of the biggest tasks you're going to have is making a villain as iconic as Darth Vader. And that's one of the things people are expecting. They want to see a Sith badass who is like the new Darth Vader for this trilogy. And they nailed the visual aspect of it. Darth Maul is one of the most iconic things, I think, in movies. His face, like, you show that face to anyone, they're like, oh, that's Darth Maul. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that sticks out about Star Wars. And it's so funny that they nailed the visual component, but they completely 100% failed in the character department.
Right? It's like I don't know if they failed so much as they just didn't try.
Yeah,
right?
They just didn't try.
It's just, there's nothing there. The best way to describe Darth Maul is he's a double-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
Right? He has literally no other purpose than to be a double-bladed lightsaber. In The Phantom Menace, there's been a lot of great stuff done with him outside of that film, including this fan film, and I am really, really fond of one of his arcs in the Clone Wars series, which we'll bring up a little bit more in this. But yeah, Darth Maul is just one of those things, like, he has the look, right? Just looks so unbelievably awesome. Yeah. And I don't know how they fucked... Well, I know exactly how. George Lucas was in charge. I was going to say I don't know how they fucked him up, but no, I take that back. I know exactly how.
The evidence is abundant and clear.
Yeah. So no, I was a kid. I loved Darth Maul when the trailers were coming out and stuff. I was like, oh man, I want to be Darth Maul. Fuck Obi-Wan Kenobi and whoever else. I'm going to be Darth Maul for Halloween. I'm going to do my backyard adventures as Darth Maul. And then, like, the movie came out.
Oh.
Darth Maul didn't get shit to do.
Yeah.
He has one cool scene, and that's it. And I was... that's when I started to be sorely disappointed.
And then he dies.
Yep.
Should not have died, I think.
Well, have you seen there's a series of videos this guy did called Making the Prequels Good, basically?
Was it, the guy, he's in front of a green screen, I forget.
Yeah, he's got a beard, and he's just like, yeah. I really liked his pitch for Darth Maul in that.
Yeah, I think that was clearly where they should have gone with Darth Maul. Make him Obi-Wan's arch enemy, but also like, keep him around, because he's cool. And, like, even if you did nothing with him in The Phantom Menace, you could have corrected that mistake later on. By bringing him back the same way they eventually did in Clone Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And so, how crazy is it that a cartoon series is just collectively better than 3 films, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the cartoon series, is that sometimes, like, it has vision, atmosphere, and things that the movies just didn't have.
Yeah. And then this fan film
Yeah.
is better than the movie. Not just as, like, a cool character piece for Darth Maul.
Better directed.
Yes!
It's much better directed.
I know what's going on. There's emotion here. So yeah, let's just get into the fan film itself. Brief description. Darth Maul is on some planet that Sidious has put him there to guard secrets that we're not really told much about. And we get the sense that he just spends his free time, which he has in abundance, training with a lightsaber. Then 5 Jedi show up, and he has to take them all out before they can discover the secrets of the Sith. And it all turned in a big ultimate twist. It turns out Sidious arranged to have the Jedi show up to test Darth Maul's capabilities. And there's more to it than that. But what I find fascinating is the biggest problem with doing anything else with Darth Maul is you almost have to kind of abandon the strong silent type that they were going for in the first film. Because, like, as much as he doesn't have a character, I do kind of like the idea of, this Sith that is just completely different than anything else we've seen before in Star Wars at that time, of just this quiet, physically imposing Sith.
That would have been a really interesting and ballsy way to go with him, making him a character that doesn't talk, but, like...
Or talks rarely, yeah.
But is, like, a complete character, and you can totally know what he's thinking and what he's feeling. That would get people talking, and that would be, like, a true visionary way to go with Darth Maul.
Certainly, and that's certainly what we get here, because he doesn't have a line.
Yeah.
In the entire thing, in this 15-minute fan film, he doesn't talk once. But I know what he's feeling. I understand his character and his motivations. And to be fair, this is mostly an action piece, but there are a couple of very important bits where we really do get an insight into what he's thinking and feeling.
Yeah, especially at the end.
Yeah, certainly. And so, yeah, I do like what they do with him in Clone Wars, but importantly, they have to basically build an entire character that I don't think was really there at all, because there was no character. They have to build an entire character into him to make him work in Clone Wars, and also in doing so, they have to make him talk a lot. Whereas this keeps the silence.
Yeah.
And I do like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a thing that you may have to just deal with cartoons, because it's harder to make the emotions on that show come across the same way that they do in live action. It's much easier to, like, just look and relate to someone based off of just how they appear to be feeling, and it's hard to do that with a cartoon.
It's not impossible, but yeah, it is more difficult, especially for how, like, the animation on Clone Wars eventually ended up bringing me over, but it's still really jarring to look at.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
And it's the blocky beards. It's nowhere near as bad as King Kong King Kong King of the Apes. But it's close. That may be the worst series ever. Anyway, so yeah, I like the idea, though, that we can have Maul grow into talking as he, kind of becomes more independent and stuff. So I think ultimately this all works, and I don't know, fuck it. This is canon to me now. This fan film, that is.
Yeah, I mean, hey, why not? It came
out
one of the better visual-looking Star Wars things we've gotten in a while. And, I mean, all the expanded universe, as far as we know, like, you could count this in. Come on.
I mean, fuck it, why not?
Let's add this in.
Yeah. So anyway, just Darth Maul's fucking cool, and what? All right, so let's talk about this fan film itself. Visually, absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
The effects look great. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, so I looked into the production side of this. I looked like in some of the behind the scenes stuff when they were making it, just to see what they were like working with on a technical level. And they did a lot of cool things. Like I know, like when you see like Darth Maul like falling from the sky, they had him run and jump onto a trampoline, and then like he's like literally falling out of the sky because he like bounces off this like little tiny trampoline and stuff like that's really cool. And the choreography, it looked like they obviously had like to practice a lot, and you can see that in the behind the scenes stuff. And as far as like cameras go, I think they filmed this with like the red.
Epic?
It's like the Red Epic or some. It might have been the slightly smaller model. I know there's the Red Epic Dragon, and then there's like the Red Raven or something like that. It may have been the Red Raven. I'm not sure. But what's really cool about that is like we've gotten to a place with fan films where you can really. There's kind of like a very consistent standard type of equipment that like is very achievable. Like you can get this kind of stuff, and when people collaborate like this, like these projects, they can look really good. Like we've made it so that people can get their hands on cameras that can put out stuff that looks really, really cinematic. There's no longer that awkward kind of like this doesn't quite look like it could be a Netflix series type of thing. Like that used to be the thing with fan films. We've gotten to a point where like this looks like it could be an episode of a Netflix series.
Well, here's the thing, and it's gonna sound crazy, but you can thank George Lucas for that.
Really?
Yeah, like, as much as I don't like the prequels, what he did for film in those is actually kind of impressive. My long-standing thing is the prequels would be considered much better let me backtrack on that. Using digital cameras as opposed to film cameras would be much, much more widely accepted and would have been accepted even faster than it has been if the prequels had just been good. Like, seriously, I think that was the biggest roadblock to digital over film, but now we've finally gotten over that. It's just one of those crazy things where he wanted to shoot Star Wars, the prequels, on digital, and so he's the one that put in the funding to make HD capable digital cameras back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the industry pushed itself to do that, and so the technology got better and better at his push and at the push that filmmakers started making, and then the consumer demand followed. You can thank George Lucas for professional quality fan films.
Well, that's pretty interesting, and yeah, I mean there is certain advantages to trying to push when you're trying to push the boundaries of special effects. That obviously does do a lot for film in general. If those movies were better, yeah, he probably would get the credit. I'm not a person that really has much stake in the film versus digital argument. If I think that it's cool to have the option to shoot on film for movies that want to, but I understand that there's a lot you can do to pretty much make digital look almost the exact same as film. It's the difference is very small. You can say it's there, but it's almost not even like digital doesn't look as good as film. It's like it looks a little bit different. And it's like you can kind of pick the one that you like better. And I know digital is easier and it's cheaper, and it makes a lot of sense in a lot of cases. And I think for indie films, I think digital is the way to go for indie films, fan films, small budget projects like this. I think digital is for sure the way to go, just because it's so cheap and it's easy and it's affordable.
Cheap, it's easier to work with. And yeah, I didn't want to make this a film versus digital thing, but it's just neat to bring that up, isn't it?
Yeah.
That Star Wars, like, I forget what I was watching. I think it may have been The People vs. George Lucas, which was a really fun documentary that showed clips from a bunch of different fan films. But someone made the point that Star Wars has the most fan films, like, out of any franchise. There are some Star Trek fan films, there are some Doctor Who fan films, but nothing compares to Star Wars fan films, just on pure quantity. Batman, I think, would probably come a close second.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that he pushed the industry to the point where the fans of his property are producing better work than he did.
Yeah.
It's just endlessly fascinating to me. But anyway, back to the fan film itself. So you talked about the choreography, and I think the fight choreography looks brilliant. They do a move in here that I'd wanted to see someone use as a consistent style in lightsaber dueling for the longest time, because I mean there should be a reason that it's not just like a sword, but it has like a blaster style element to it, which is the the on-off button, the shoot up and down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's that shot where he's using it just as a sword at one point, and he's in a saber lock with one guy, and then the Bane-looking motherfucker comes up behind him and tries to like do a leg sweep or whatever, and he turns on the other blade, and that catches the second dude's thing.
Yeah.
That's just a move, like, when you think about it, that'd be really interesting for saber combat, because it would allow you to get closer to someone if you're just constantly turning the saber on and off.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really impressed just to see that level of thought and detail worked into it, and it's one of those things where you can tell it's fans making this.
Yeah, and it's even more impressive when you think about the fact that a lot of the shots are like, if you watch the behind the scenes, it's like you see the choreographers are like in the middle of the fights in a lot of cases, like where they're like running through the fights as the fights are running through them, like, and it's like they're intersecting, and it's like they have to get in there and get it filmed right and get the shot right, and it's like it's crazy, like it's really impressive on that level.
Yeah, I agree. Man, I fucking love Star Wars. It's interesting though, just to like build off of that and also get back to what I was talking about with the saber combat, because you watch a lot of old Japanese films, like the old samurai films, and you realize George Lucas, in making Star Wars, was in part referencing old classic American sci-fi things, but in part just blending it with Japanese film.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how fans build off of what he created, and it's not all George Lucas, but still, it's interesting to see how fans build off of that when they hadn't seen the stuff that inspired Star Wars, so they innovate from there, and it just kind of rolls and becomes even more its own thing, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Star Wars is like, it's such its own flavor. It's so old, new, mixed, and like impossible to describe necessarily, except for, it's dirty, but it's not necessarily like a brooding universe, but it's dirty and it's gritty. Mm-hmm. And it's got, I don't know, it's unlike anything else. It's kind of like the Wild West meets medieval times meets pirates in space.
Meets the Hendersons or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy just to think about all the intricacies of how that all works out. And that's just all within the choreography, with the way this fan film shot. It's just fascinating to see how many of these different styles of filmmaking and thought are blending together in this way.
Yeah, one of the best shots in this is when Darth Maul and the girl are standing off at the end, and it's like a really far out shot, and they're both on the ends of the screen, and then the girl starts sprinting at him, and like the camera just glides forward, and like you get really close to them. It's not like a zoom, it's like the camera is moving itself closer to them.
Yeah, they probably shot that on a drone, I'd bet you.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, like especially the overhead shots, like that, like when they're like above and stuff, like that's where it's like you forget it's a fan film, because it's like you don't even think, you're like, how did they get the camera up there? And I think fan films have gotten to a place like, if I had to say any criticisms of this, it's only, okay, so I think that in some ways fan films have like gotten a lot of special effects like down pat. Like I think the opening shot of like the spaceship flying into the planet, I think that looks great, but I don't think that Darth Maul standing in the temple looks very good. And I'm almost of the mind where it's like, I think that these kind of fan films, they should stay really minimalistic as much as they possibly can with stuff like that. Don't put characters in CG environments. I don't think fan films can get away with that yet. I mean, even Netflix series, like Daredevil, the Netflix Daredevil series doesn't even try to get away with stuff like that. But they can do, force pushes, lightsaber combat, all of that you can totally do down pat. So all of that stuff works. The space, like I said, the spaceship flying in, that looks good. That looks really good for a fan film. It's just characters in CG environments don't necessarily work. And the makeup looks really good, too, in this.
Yeah, I was quite impressed by the makeup effects. The other problem just with fan films in general is you almost always have a very young cast.
Yeah.
It's really rare to be able to get older actors, or not even older, just like, people in their late 20s to 30s. You always have, like, teens to early 20s, so it works alright in this, but I don't know, that whole Master and Apprentice, they're just a little too close in age. The guy puts on a beard, and he tries his best to, like, seem older, but,
what was I gonna say? The other thing, I think that, and this is another thing that I noticed about fan films, and you sent me that the Predator Dark Ages.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
Yeah, we should do one on that one also.
Oh, I'd totally down.
But like I was saying, that one I noticed somewhat of a similar problem that fan films somewhat have, and it's that I think they get pacing of scenes. They make the scenes a little bit too quickly paced sometimes. They don't let you breathe in the scene. Like in this fan film when the guy's walking through the forest and then he like senses Darth Maul and then Darth Maul just flies out of the sky and comes down like that. Yeah. I think you could extend that. Let the scene build a little bit, the atmosphere build a little bit. Like have some shots of like the empty forest and like just waiting for him, and then Darth Maul comes out. And that's the thing that I noticed with a lot of fan films is they don't let the scenery just breathe enough.
Yeah, and part of that is just like you're likely to click on a fan film if you're looking for it. If you're looking for a cool fan film, you'll probably click on one and watch it through when it's under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But once it starts to get half an hour or an hour, people just are less likely to watch it. It's less likely to get big,
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. They have to really economize their time because even if it's great, who really is going to sit down just when they're browsing and watch an hour-long fan film?
Yeah, it's more of a thing that it has to build a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of works. So, like, you can almost talk about that, like, with, like, the Red Letter Media Phantom Menace review and, like, all the Star Wars reviews. Those are, like, really, really long, but they built a reputation. And, like, now those are, like, people sit down and watch those, like, once a year. Like, I know, like, every once in a while I go back and I watch those, and I'll sit down and, like, watch those entire videos. It's like, it does happen, but you have to build, like, a reputation. So
yeah, you have to build your street cred, basically.
Put out another fan film, and they maybe hyped it up, like, look, this is our take on a more fully formed narrative fan film, and it was more of a, like, episode of a TV series almost type fan film.
Yeah.
Then I think they could get away with that because they've nailed the visual style and people would be willing to give them the chance because they know that the product at least looks professional.
Yeah, certainly. And that's the other thing with fan films, though. Like, they can often look professional when they're done really well. But acting's always probably going to be your biggest problem because you can't make money off of it, so you almost always need people that are willing to work for free, which, if you're an actor, you're eventually going to do some free work. That's unavoidable. But if you're a good actor, that free work is going to be very minimal as far as the time you spend doing it in your career. So you're never going to have the best actors, and it's hard to make a series out of that kind of stuff because you have actors when it's that professional level. Those are people who are actively looking for professional careers at that point. They're not just fans. going out there making their thing, so they're not always going to be available long term. And that's just it's kind of the poison of the medium of fan films, I guess. But this, I don't know, it's just, there's so much about it that's done so well that I almost don't even think about it like a fan film. It feels like a bonus scene that they didn't have a chance to put in Phantom Menace, right? Like, wouldn't this just make it a better movie if this is how Phantom Menace opened, as opposed to fucking trade disputes?
Yeah, it would. And, like that, just the last scene of it, where like Darth Maul is about to cut down the girl, and he has that moment of pause, and then he looks up and he knows he's being watched, and then he goes through with it.
Yeah,
that's more Darth Maul character building than anything in Phantom Menace.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, I find Darth Maul to just be a really fascinating character, because I know very little about his background, but I know that he was taken at a very young age, and that Sidious kind of always just tortured and tormented him left and right. Like, the idea is that Darth Maul was always replaceable. It was just around as muscle, and so Sidious didn't really find him worthwhile, and was just kind of was willing to be even more cruel with him than he would with anyone else. And I don't know, I find that really, really fascinating that he has that moment where, he has no problem killing someone in combat. That's just what he's trained himself for.
Yeah.
But to take a life as it's just sitting there in front of him completely helpless is what gives him pause, because that's him. He is completely helpless when he's in those situations. So can he do what his master just hasn't, not won't, but hasn't done? I find really fascinating.
Yeah.
And that's just the coolest thing about this, is it is a kick-ass action scene. It looks beautiful, but it also gives a hell of a lot of insight to a character that has no character in his movie.
Yeah.
And it just works. It fires on all cylinders, man.
Yeah. Really impressive looking.
Yeah, I fucking love this thing. Now if I can just get a good Green Lantern fan film, I'll be happy.
Yeah. I used to not like fan films, and now I'm really into fan films and short films on the internet. I'm really interested in them.
Yeah, you're how old again? 17, 18?
Just turned 18 in January.
Yeah, that's about the age I started getting into fan films too. So maybe it's a thing. You're just looking at what you're capable of doing, perhaps.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, if you really set out, and that's the cool. That fan films are inspiring, because it's like, look, this is totally achievable for anyone, and it's like it's bumping the standard up. Because the thing is, you see all these Hollywood movies, and the thing about Hollywood is, if it wanted to, it could get as bad as it wanted to. Like, movies could suck. And sometimes they do suck. Sometimes really bad movies come out, and it feels like, oh my god, the standard of Hollywood is shit. And that's sometimes. Now, there are really good movies that come out every year, and we're not in like a deprived age of film where like we're not getting anything new or we're not getting anything cool. But the thing is, fan films don't have to abide by those rules. Fan films can always push the boundaries or do whatever they want, and it's cool because it's like, no matter what, they can't take those away. No one can take away the ability for just fans to get together and make these kind of movies.
Well, not yet. Let the DMCA keep having its way. It's like, have you been following any of the Star Trek Ragnarok controversy that's going on?
I think it's Axanar.
Axanar, right?
Yeah. I'm familiar with what's going on with that.
Yeah, that's like Universal's trying to just cut in and claim copyright violation for a fan film because it's being really highly professionally produced and stuff. And so it's a really scary time that they might take fan films away from us. And that really does kind of freak me out, because I don't know, for the longest time fan films were never a problem because just there was no medium to broadcast them on besides, getting a couple people from your hometown together. And then they became And then we had YouTube and other video streaming sites, so then those could be posted, and then the quality jumped up more and more to where it looks completely professional. And now we have this worry about what the studio now wants a cut suddenly.
Yeah.
That's just in the last 10 to 15 years, and that's crazy.
Yeah. I know with and that's the thing, fan films are such a good way now to find talent because and that's what a lot of people use them as. If you are a really talented director and you're trying to make it and you want to get hired and you make a fan film, if you attach a name to it like Star Wars or Star Trek, it's going to get probably a little bit more buzz than it would otherwise.
Certainly.
And and there's nothing wrong with that because, look, you want to show people what you can do. And Dan Trachtenberg, he made the Portal fan film, and then he directed 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yep.
That was a big that impacted his career huge because without that, who knows if he would have been hired to direct 10 Cloverfield Lane? Probably not. That was a thing that got his name out there because that video got so many views. And would it have if it was not titled Portal? Who knows?
Probably not. It's crazy. But anyway, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with just the Darth Maul fan film? Or we love it to death, but it is a long fight scene with a cool character moment here and there.
Yeah.
But my only other thing with it is I'm a little confused on a plot point. Maybe you can help me with your interpretation of this. So the bearded Jedi, he has that line where he's like, "Your fighting style is a long-lost art, but I understand it now."
Yeah.
And he keeps wanting to pursue and continue the fight with Darth Maul when he keeps getting the chance to escape.
Yeah.
Did you get because I was unsure if they were just if he was really just determined to beat the guy or if they were indicating that he was starting to go Sith.
I think that it was that, I don't know, because they all were don't let him escape. They kept saying that. But I don't know.
I find the Sith, the whole idea of the Sith, the rule of two, all that stuff really fascinating. It's probably my favorite element of Star Wars. Again, Palpatine's my favorite character. But that's one that I have trouble wrapping my head around because I don't think there's enough done to indicate what's going on with him. Because he's the one that talks the most.
Yeah.
And yet he's just kind of I don't know if he's being lured to the dark side through hatred or anger, and they just kill him off, or if he's just really determined to catch the Sith.
All I know is that I really like the Jedi with the thing on his face.
Master Bane, I guess we could call him.
Jedi Master Bane.
I have a lovely voice.
I like it. I also like Plo Koon, and he has a thing on his face.
You just like things on people's faces?
Yeah, I like a lot of things with people that have things on their face.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this one. It's kind of just turned into a discussion about fan films in general, too. And I'd be happy to talk with you about the Dark Ages fan film, too, because I love that thing. So that'll about wrap it up. Let's do a score real quick. I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 out of 5 Darth Maul horns.
I'm going to give it... Oh, God. I'm going to give it... I'll give it 3.5 double-bladed lightsabers.
Oh, you cheap fuck.
Which would technically just be 2 double-bladed lightsabers, or it would be 3 double-bladed lightsabers and then 1 lightsaber.
Thank you for elaborating. Yeah, that'll do it then. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Squatch.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.